You're sitting in the dealership showroom. The salesman slides a piece of paper across the table and circles one number with a pen. Not the price of the car, the monthly payment. "This fits comfortably in your budget," he says. And it does. $650 a month feels manageable against your $5,500 take-home pay. You sign. You drive home in a car that smells like victory. 18 months later, you're checking your bank balance before buying groceries. You haven't taken a single vacation. Your credit card balance has quietly grown. And somewhere in the back of your mind, a question you can't quite answer. Where did all my money go? It went into the car. Not the price of the car. That part you already knew about. It went into the trap built around the car. The one nobody explains to you in the showroom. Because explaining it would mean losing the sale. Today, we're tearing apart exactly how that trap works, why it's gotten worse in the last 5 years, and the actual math of what that comfortable monthly payment is costing you in ways you've never calculated. Walk through any office parking lot in any American city right now, and you'll see it. Row after row of cars 3 years old or newer. Sedans and SUVs with payment books practically printed on the windshield. Trucks that cost more than what some people pay in rent for a year. And here's what's strange. Ask any of these people if they're good with money, and most will say yes. They don't gamble. They don't blow their paycheck at the bar. They have a 401k running, even if it's a small contribution. They consider themselves responsible. But ask them how much they've actually spent on their car in total. Not the sticker price, the total. Payment plus interest plus insurance plus fuel plus maintenance plus depreciation, and almost nobody can answer. Not because they're hiding it, because they've genuinely never calculated it. This is the first part of the trap. It's not deception, it's invisibility. The car payment trap survives because the real cost is split into 6 different smaller numbers that never get added up in one place. The payment feels manageable. The insurance feels manageable. The gas feels manageable. Individually, every piece passes the smell test. Nobody runs the total. So let's run the total. Because once you see it assembled in one place, you will never look at a car. Every car buying decision in this country is built around a single question. Can I afford the monthly payment? That question is the entire trap. Because the monthly payment was never designed to tell you whether you can afford the car. It was designed to make any car feel affordable. Here's how. A $40,000 car at 7% interest over 3 years has a payment of around $1,235. Stretch that same loan to 7 years, increasingly common now, and the payment drops to roughly $610. Suddenly, a car that felt out of reach feels comfortable. But here's what the salesman doesn't volunteer. Over those 7 years, you've now paid roughly $51,240 for a car that cost $40,000. That's over $11,000 in pure interest, handed to a bank for the privilege of spreading out payments. The monthly number went down. The total cost went up dramatically. And almost nobody notices, because the only number anyone ever shows you is the monthly one. Let's build the actual total cost of car ownership, the number nobody calculates before signing. Take a fairly typical mid-range SUV. Sticker price, $48,000. Down payment, $5,000. Loan amount, $43,000 at 7.5% over 6 years. The payment works out to roughly $735 a month. Over 72 months, that's $52,920 paid against a $43,000 loan, meaning $9,920 in interest alone. Now add what most people forget to budget for. Insurance on a $48,000 vehicle runs $1,800 to $2,400 a year for full coverage. Call it $175 a month. Gas. At 22 miles per gallon, realistic mixed driving, and 1,200 miles a month, at current prices around $3.50 a gallon, you're looking at roughly $190 monthly. Maintenance. Modern vehicles with sensors, infotainment systems, and complex electronics cost significantly more to service than they did a decade ago. Budget $90 to $120 a month, averaged across the year, factoring in the larger bills that show up every couple of services. Add it up. Payment $735, insurance $175, gas $190, maintenance $105. Total monthly cost of ownership roughly $1,205. Not $735, $1,205. That's 64% more than the number the salesman circled on the page. For someone earning $5,500 a month take home, that's nearly 22% of income going to a single depreciating asset. The standard financial guideline says total.
Here's where the trap gets genuinely brutal. Because everything we just calculated assumes the car is at least holding its value while you pay for it. It isn't. A new car loses roughly 20% of its value the moment it's driven off the lot. By year 3, it's typically worth 55 to 60% of the original price. By year 5, often closer to 40%. So let's check the math on our example. That $48,000 SUV, 3 years in, is worth roughly $26,000 to $26,000. But the outstanding loan balance at that point, on a 6-year loan, is still around $29,000 to $30,000. Read that again. After 3 years and roughly $26,000 in payments, the car is worth less than what's still owed on it. This is called negative equity, and it is the single most dangerous part of the entire car payment trap. Why does this matter so much? Because life happens. A job loss, a medical emergency, a need to relocate cities. In every one of those situations, your instinct is to sell the car to free up cash.
Now here's the question that actually matters. If the math is this clearly bad, why do millions of financially sensible people walk into this trap every single year? Because the car payment trap isn't a math problem. It's an identity problem wearing a financial disguise. A car is the most visible purchase most people will ever make. Your salary is invisible. Your savings account is invisible. Your investment portfolio is invisible. But your car sits in the office parking lot, in the driveway, at the kids' soccer game, fully visible to everyone who knows you. It is, for most people, the single largest public statement of status they will ever make. This is why people who would never dream of taking out a loan to fund a vacation will happily take on a car loan that costs more for longer with worse math without a second thought. The vacation is private. The car is public. And we are, all of us, far more rational about private decisions than public ones. The auto industry understands this completely. Look at how cars are actually marketed, not on fuel efficiency or total cost of ownership, on how the car makes you feel, the mountain roads, the confident posture in the driver's seat, the implied life upgrade. They're not selling transportation. They're selling a 30-second glimpse of the person you want people to think you are, financed over 84 months at 7.5% interest. And here's the genuinely cruel part. This works precisely because of something called hedonic adaptation. The thrill.
Now, I know what some of you are thinking, but I need a reliable car. I can't just not buy one. And that's fair. Nobody's arguing you should never own a car. The argument is about which car, financed how, for how long. Here's the test that cuts through almost every justification people give themselves. Ask honestly, would you buy this exact car at this exact price if you had to pay the full amount in cash today? Not could you technically afford the payment. Would you, with full visibility into the real number, hand over $48,000 in cash for this specific vehicle? For the overwhelming majority of people, the honest answer is no.
So what does getting this right actually look like? 3 structural rules that replace the payment-first mindset entirely. First, decide using total cost, never monthly cost. Before you walk into a dealership, calculate the full ownership number, payment, insurance, gas, maintenance, exactly the way we did earlier. Compare that number to your take-home pay. If total transportation cost exceeds 15 to 20% of your income, the car is not affordable, regardless of how comfortable the payment feels in isolation. Second, cap the loan term at 3 to 4 years, never longer.
If a car only becomes affordable by stretching the loan to 6 or 7 years, that is not a signal you found a good deal. That is a signal the car is outside your actual budget, and the term length is being used to disguise that fact. A shorter term forces honesty. Third, buy 2 to 3 years used wherever possible. This single decision sidesteps the steepest part of the depreciation curve, the 20% that vanishes in year 1, while still getting a car with most of its useful life remaining. The person who buys used and invests the difference is running a completely different financial trajectory than the person who buys new every 3 years on rolling loans. If you take the difference between a stretched 7-year new car payment and a 3-year used car payment, often $400 to $500 a month, and simply invest it in an index fund at a historical 8% average return, over 20 years, that difference alone compounds to well over $250,000. Not from earning more, from refusing to let a depreciating asset eat the gap.
Here's what the car payment trap actually is, stripped of every justification. It's a system specifically engineered to make you focus on the one number that doesn't matter, the monthly payment, while hiding the 5 numbers that do. The car isn't the problem. Cars are tools, and tools are fine. The problem is making a 5-figure decision based on a single, deliberately shrunk number, without ever adding up what it actually costs across the years you'll be paying for it. The next time you're sitting across from a salesman who circles the payment and says, "This fits comfortably," ask for one number instead: the total. Every dollar, every year, all the way through. Because the people who build real wealth aren't the ones with the nicest car in the parking lot. They're the ones who did that math before they signed anything, and quietly drove away in something a little more boring with a lot more freedom.